there is a great deal of responsibility sharing that needs to be done. So in the ecosystem, you have boards, you have independent directors, you have auditors, there are checks and balances. The LODR itself, brings the responsibility of independent directors, the NRCs, the key resource persons, and corporate disclosures. We have also seen that how the independent directors would actually exercise their independent judgment, including related party transactions. They have to be approved only by the IDs. So there are enough, in my opinion, the regulatory side, there is enough systems of checks and balances, and there is so many companies and so many things are also checks and companies being handled also. Now what happens is that, in a normal media situation, you don't talk in terms of statistically speaking, you talk in terms of that particular anecdote which happens, and that becomes, the whole center of gravity for a few days when a certain case emerges. But if we really say that, the egregious cases have happened in the past, will also happen. Despite that, it's saying that we have all the criminal laws in place, the police in place, but the crimes do happen. We have to simply say that, how do we keep control of the crime rates? So it's the rate of default, it's the rate at which, the people are violating norms or committing frauds. That's a matter of concern. So at the moment, I would say that, wherever the egregious behaviors are noticed, we get into that and examine it, and we have to go legally, because we have also to be mindful of the fact that we cannot also be like shooting through the hip. Our orders have to be detailed, investigations have to be detailed, they have to stand the scrutiny of the courts. There is a tribunal, there is a Supreme Court. So therefore, given that situation, we are improving our systems and using of very, now robust technologies for both supervision, which we call SupTech, and also for surveillance. And then also, accordingly, we have a willingness to take due action wherever we find these defaults. But there are checks and balances happening. The exchanges are first line regulators. A lot of disclosures are happening. A lot of auditors are doing their job. So let's not think that, the systems are really not working. No, in all cases where such cases happen, we do, examine whatever the different roles. Now, if you are saying that if there is a case of insider trading, then that is always looked into. If you suggest that there could be a case of any, manipulative practice or fraudulent practice, so under the concerned, PIT or PFUTP regulations, things are looked into. So it's not that, anything will be there. Even if, as we speak, even if, Sebi teams must be examining several cases, where things may have happened. But you have to establish the guilt and evidence with the proper factual examination, and then things come out. So sometimes it's not possible that to take an instantaneous, action. Sometimes, for example, one of the actions that was, taken by Sebi yesterday in regard to spoofing. In that spoofing, there were activities which were over a period of time were there, a pattern was established, and then, the orders were passed. So I think things will not just go just like that. Just because when you are seeing that today it's not happening, it will not happen tomorrow, we can't do that. Things keep happening. As I said, that all these investigations have to be done in a proper manner. Well, first of all, I think what you say statistically is not really very appropriate, because 92% of orders in 924-25 have been, Sebi orders have been upheld in SAT. And in same year, 24-25, about 80% orders which Supreme Court passed have gone in favor of Sebi. So therefore, statistically, there is an overwhelming thing is there. Yes, I think the justice system is that nobody can expect that everything should always pass, because the judiciary is independent, and they would look at it, and if there is a flaw, they will obviously not rule in our favor. And sometimes we go in appeal, and we might succeed in appeal, we might not succeed in appeal. So that's a part of the thing. But statistically, it's not that it's a routine failure as you were suggesting. Be that as it may, our effort has always been, of course, these cases not necessarily are the cases which are emanating just now. They may have come up, there may be old cases also which are there, because whatever the cases come up, they may not be exactly the orders which we passed it this year or today or tomorrow. It would be more like our effort, despite whatever successes Sebi must be having in the courts, to still improve the quality of our orders in terms of investigations should be more detailed, evidence should be more proper, natural justice should be there, and so on and so forth. So that judicially, because there are many cases, they're quasi-judicial orders, and they need to, test those things in accordance with the law. However, we do have sometimes a very strong imperative to act in many a situation where we can't wait for very long, and we have to act immediately, because sometimes we have to just save the investors. So therefore, we also sometimes have to make interim orders, and not to have, even though the investigations have not fully completed, but if there is an overwhelming evidence that something is being done, which is there, and we have to stop people from doing further fraud or things like that, then interim orders also do get passed, which then have to be, of course, confirmed by the final orders after the investigations are completed. Normally, I would not like to comment on one specific orders. Our orders keep coming, and it's not proper for me to actually comment on, sort of every order offhand. But in that particular case, what I can say is that there were three elements of that. There were three major legal issues which were involved in that case, which you are referring to. And in one of the cases of Supreme Court ruled against Sebi, and two other issues, Sebi's stand was supported. So therefore, it was there were sometimes the Supreme Court actually clears the law when there is an ambiguity. For example, in case of compensation to investors, the Supreme Court held that it will not be possible for compensating investors in the secondary market, which was a Sebi stand. Because how do we, compensate only the complainants and not others? In a secondary market, so many people would have traded. And just because some people complain, we can't really compensate them and not others. And what's the means of compensating? So whenever disgorgement is also done, it sometimes may not be possible for you to compensate in that sense. Similarly, on the legal cost, where the SAT had made an order which was not upheld by the Supreme Court, which went in favor of Sebi though. So therefore, even that order, there were three issues. Out of that, two issues went in favor of Sebi. It's a very wide issue that you have raised. It's an important question, but it is a very wide issue. So let me try and attempt, in a brief manner, how we will we define the trust and what are the different elements of trust. So one is the trust, on the Sebi itself in terms of its conflict of interest, the officials and the boards, which was, I think, some narrative was there. And at that time, I think we also wanted to have a look at it as to our own system in place. We found that, there were no public disclosures. Possibly we should have, or to have some public disclosures. What is the extent of public disclosure, in what this thing we need to define? Secondly, the employees' regulations are also, set in earlier times. The board conflict of interest matters are set in 2008, they needed to be made contextualized. I mean, you have to update, you have to contextualize, and also find out a practical way of administering it. If there are recusals, how those recusals will be recorded, where all they be kept, how much will be there, then what are the elements of do's and don'ts, and which are the things which should be publicly disclosed, which should be disclosed internally but kept in a proper manner, so that if needed, they could be retrieved very easily. So these are the different elements. So we've started engaging into this through a independent committee, which can also look at the best practices elsewhere and advise us and give us a recommendation. That's one part. The secondly is that sort of a trust is how we perform in terms of transparency, in terms of action taken, in terms of our supervillaince action, many a times, as you say, the way we do our investigation, so that the people say that the regulator has the capacity to deliver. It also involves the technology, because if we have to keep updated our technology and response time is less on matters, and we are more transparent about what is being done and so on, that also improves the trust. That is about Sebi. Then the Sebi's own trust on its own ecosystem. To what extent we are supervising, in what matter we are also taking their problems into account. Because if we are also, as a regulator, also may take a very unilateral actions or unilateral way, where the industry is struggling to implement that, then also there will be failures. So we have to be also more consultative. Now you have raised a question that, how do you have the conflict of interest issues in this consultative process itself? I think consultative process is, to a large extent, brings up actually different points of view. So it's not merely an industrial body, for example. We always have a public consultation. So it's not merely that, we have a committee and with that committee everything is resolved. On top of it, there is a general public consultation where all the views are coming, anybody's case. Secondly, within the committees, also it is not that everyone is taking a uniform stand. There are diametrically opposite stands also in the committees, because there are different intermediaries. So if we are doing it, if suppose some people want in certain favor, some people would like to oppose it also. And they may have different rationales for it. So then you have to bring about common ground. So that is what we call a synthesis. You have a different this perspective and that perspective, and you synthesize. Our role is more like, how do we synthesize better? Are we good in creating, bringing in as much as, different points of view and then synthesizing in them better? So that is the role which we have played. If we don't, then what we will do is we will be accused of imposing our things without understanding the ground reality. So consultation which we have, process which we have, it will actually make our things more robust. Number one, buy-in will be more. The buy-in will be more because they are concerned. And in many cases what happens is that we give our regulatory intent, and then we have industry standards forum which give means to implement it. So the nitty-gritty and the nuts and bolts, because anything for to be implemented, you have to need plumbing at their stage. Technology changes, IT system changes, HR changes, all that will be necessary in order to report a particular change or in order to implement a particular change. This, I think the people who are implementing the system, they would be able to fix it much better. So we get that advantage as well. So I think the whole approach then becomes more robust.